Hey everyone, welcome back to Cuddy's bookshelf. So it is time for August read and wrap up. I will jump straight in. I have got some really exciting books to talk to you about. So the first one is The Final Strife by Sarah El-Arifi. I really enjoyed this book. This follows Sila, who is, when she was a baby, she was kidnapped by some blue-blooded rebels and raised with a duster's heart so she could take down an empire. And when her adopted family were brutally murdered, she sort of lost her way. Everything turned to dust. She was not bothered about the plans that the family had raised her to have until the trials of what she was intended to take part in are coming about, and she has to decide whether she will take down an empire or save an empire. And it was so good, I jumped straight into the second one, so I did read both of these. I really enjoyed Feybound by Sarah El-Arifi that I read last month. So yeah, I'm so glad that I've caught up with all of her books so far, and I will be carrying on reading from that author. So yeah, that's the first two books down. And then I read some manga. I did say that I wanted to read the rest of Spy X Family, which I did. So I did read volume 10 and 11 of Spy X Family. Again, really enjoy this series. So this is about a spy called Twilight who has a mission that he has to infiltrate this prestigious school. So in doing so, he needs a family. He needs a wife and a child. So he adopts this little girl called Anya, and then he finds a wife to marry, well, a woman to marry, to become his wife, called Yor. And the thing is, Yor is a secret assassin and Anya is a telepath, and the marriage is sort of arranged perfectly for Yor as well, because it stops people asking questions about her secret assassin life. So the only person that knows that there is a spy, an assassin and a telepath living in the house is obviously Anya, which is the little girl who is the telepath, because she can read all of their minds. It is such a wholesome, really fun series with action. Highly recommend. Love Spy X Family. Then I read two middle grades, so it is in the same series. It is Skanda and the Phantom Rider and Skanda and the Chaos Trials. And I really enjoying this series. This follows Skanda, who's always wanted to be a unicorn rider, and he goes to the exam to enter to become a unicorn rider, and he is denied access to take the exam. But by other means, he ends up going to where the unicorns are hatched, and it goes from there. It's so good. I'm really enjoying it. A great middle grade. Yeah, really great adventure. Then I read two Terry Pratchett books, which was Mort and The Reaper Man. These are books 1 and 2 in the Death series in the Discworld, and I just love Terry Pratchett. I say it every month that I read his books. The characters that he builds, the world is incredible. The humour throughout the books, I just love. This one more is, I won't say too much because obviously you can read the books separately, but I like to not give too many spoilers into what the books are. So Mort is where Death hires an apprentice to help him, and it's a really great read. I loved it. I really enjoyed Mort. And The Reaper Man is where Death has been fired because he started to develop a personality. So yeah, these are two great reads. If you have not read any of Terry Pratchett's Discworld, I highly recommend. I have read the Witches series, which I absolutely adore, and now I've read the first two in the Death series. I cannot wait to carry on, and I do think the Discworld will be a reread series for me once I have finished them, but luckily for me I've still got loads to go. So yeah, so now I'll talk about some dark romances. As always with dark romances, please check for trigger warnings, because the ones I will talk about, both series that I will talk about, has obviously it's a dark romance, so there is quite a few trigger warnings, so please look them up. I just say that before I start talking about them. But then the first one is Finding Their Muse. This is 4 books in one. I read this in the entirety. I really enjoyed it. It was about Rose, and she applies for a job to work for this man, and in his household there is 2 other men that live there also, and she starts forming attachments. And the books go where the first book is Rose and Ivan's story, and then it's Rose and Canton's story, and then it's Rose and Eric's story, and then the 4th book is the story that runs throughout, is that getting wrapped up and all of the answers that you need and how their relationships move forward from there. And like I say, I did enjoy this. Yeah, it's a dark romance. There's not much you could say about it, but I did enjoy it. The second lot of dark romances that I read was The Deaf Club and The Society of Psychos. This one is by Caroline Peckham and Suzanne Valenti. If you didn't know, they are 2 of my favourite authors. They did the Zodiac series and Darkmoor Penitentiary, The Ruthless Boys, and like all of the novellas that's in between. And this is the first time I have read some dark romances by them, and I really enjoyed this. This has humour. There was nods towards like Zodiac Academy. I liked that the woman in this was just as crazy as the men, because a lot of time in like dark romances it's mainly the men that's questionable and with the trigger warnings and everything, whereas this one, it's not like a damsel in distress with loads of men around her to help save her. She is a badass in her own right, and I just loved that. I love the humour, the characters, the way that their enemies were actual enemies and it took a long time for them to come round. I mean, I did think when they did come round, it seemed quite quick of a decision going from one to the other, but you know, it shows you what love can do. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed these. I enjoyed these more than Finding Their Muse, but I like I say, I did enjoy that. I just enjoyed these a little bit more, I think. I say I think because I probably enjoyed them just as much, but I think it's the humour and the character building that Caroline Peckham and Suzanne Valenti do that really draws me in. In the first one, you do follow Brooklyn, who is a girl that has had a really hard life, and she is quite psychotic. She's very, does things on a whim. She doesn't take any crap from anybody. She does random things at random times. If you've read Darkmoor Penitentiary, she reminds me of Sin, like a lot like Sin, and so does Niall. So Niall is one of the men that is in this book, and he is very similar in his traits, and he is in part of a family that's more of like a mafia type family, so he doesn't like his family very much at all until he finds Brooklyn, who starts making him feel things he hasn't felt for a long time. And then she meets Mato, who is another bad man, and they start forming a bond as well. When it comes to this one, there is another man that's involved also that is more from her past. These are like why choose dark romances. I do think my favourite part is when Niall and Brooklyn are just have these random, I don't want to give any spoilers because when they come up they are precious, but it's like their randomness together, they really bounce off of each other. It's like having 2 sins in one book. It's really great, and like I say, I did enjoy the nods to the Zodiac Academy and the Ruthless Boys and stuff, so yeah. And then that was all of my dark romances that I read, but I did read another book by Suzanne Valenti and Caroline Peckham, and it is Wild Wolf. We was waiting for so long for the conclusion of this, and we finally got it. I really enjoyed it. I think what I love about Caroline Peckham and Suzanne Valenti is the epilogues in their stories. When it's their final story, the book in the series, you get like so many months after, then you'll get like so many years after, and then so many years after that, and so many years after that. So you get like a really good time jump of how life went after the book is finished, and I really enjoyed that. You got that in the Death Club and Society of Psychos as well, and they did it again with this. I absolutely loved this. I loved the ending and how it all came together, and oh, it was a roller coaster. It was a roller coaster. It was butt clenching, addictive, and I could not get enough of it. Because I can't tell you much about the fourth one because it's the last one in the series, I will tell you about the first one. So this follows Rosalie, who is in the Zodiac Academy, and this is Darkmoor Penitentiary. So she gets herself put into Darkmoor Penitentiary to right a wrong that she did in her past, but also she is doing a job while she is in there. So it follows her trying to break out from Darkmoor, and there is so much to this. It's another like why choose romance, and I just love the characters in these books. Like all of Caroline Peckham and Suzanne Valenti books are so addictive, so page turny. I don't know what they do with their writing, but you can't put it down. And when the wait for this one was, it hurt, even though I waited a while to read these ones, so I wasn't too far off. It killed me. So I do feel sorry for people that like read these when they first come out, because there was quite a bit of a wait, and it's just great. Honestly, just read Caroline Peckham and Suzanne Valenti's books, because I don't care what people say, I think they're amazing. Then I did read 2 Greek mythology retellings. They are both by B. Fitzgerald, which is Girl Goddess Queen, which is one that I did unwrap on my TBR cart, and then the new one that's just come out, which is The End Crowns All. I thoroughly enjoyed both of these. I loved them. B. Fitzgerald really has a great way of retelling the stories, giving the women in the stories more power than what they have in the original. Obviously Hades and Persephone, which is this one, is a retelling of Hades and Persephone. In the actual Greek mythology, it is quite a dark story, whereas this one really gives it a fairy tale-esque way of looking at it, but it does make Persephone really, really strong, and gives women in Greek mythology a voice, and what they was going through, and the fact that they had power, and I love that. I really enjoyed that. Like I say, this one is a Hades and Persephone retelling, and this one is a Cassandra and Helen retelling. I can't explain to you enough how much you need to read these. If you like your Greek mythology retellings, these are so addictive, and I flew through them, and I couldn't wait to pick up the second one, even though it's not I say second one, they are standalones, but they're just both Greek mythology retellings, and I love them. So the next lot of books that I read, 2 of them are a series and, well, a duology, and one of them is one that I unboxed from Illumicrate, and I literally just picked it up straight away and started reading it. I did vlog it, so I will leave the vlog somewhere around at the top in the cards, and it is The Phoenix Keeper. I loved this. I literally just got the feeling, when I unboxed it, that I just wanted to read it straight away. It sounded cozy, it sounded really up my street with it being about mythical creatures and animals. I love animals so much, so this really makes you feel like this zoo that is in this book is real. Like you could attend this zoo of mythical creatures. So you have things like kelpies, dragons, phoenixes. There is all sorts in here, and I loved it. I loved hearing about how they are taken care of, even what food they have, their enclosures, everything, all of their like magical abilities, which are just incredible, and the humour that is throughout this book is really great. It does get really thrilling towards the end, and you're like butt clenched, and you're like, oh my goodness. But like I say, I gave it 5 stars. Absolutely loved it. It follows Isla, who works at this zoo that is full of mythical creatures, and she has a phoenix at her zoo. Phoenixes are her favourite animal since she was a little girl. She has always wanted to help preserve them because they are an endangered species, and they are only alive still because they are being bred in captivity. And she sits and shows the phoenix that she has of a video feed of another phoenix couple that's just laid a clutch, and like, I promise you I will find you a partner. But then when this zoo that was live streaming the hatching of the phoenixes, once they get robbed by some poachers that take the baby phoenixes because they are worth a lot of money, Isla really wants to get a partner for her phoenix. So she does all she can whilst battling crippling anxiety, so she really struggles to talk to people. She makes a plan to try and get it so the breeding program starts at their zoo, and it goes from there. It's absolutely incredible. I loved it, and I highly recommend if you want a cozy read and if you enjoy like animals, like reading about animals and facts about them, you will enjoy this, because I tell you, these mythical creatures really sound like you could go to the zoo, and you know, I really want to go. But incredible, absolutely loved it. I loved it that much that when I was reading it, I did tab it, and on my next read I really want to annotate it. So I went out, because I know some of the books that come in the YA boxes aren't for everyone's taste. So I went on Vinted and got a second copy that is pristine. So I've got a beautiful copy to keep nice, and then I've got one that I can annotate in. So for anyone, I say when anyone wants to borrow it, but I've just had some really like traumatic experiences borrowing books out, so it does put me off a little bit. But if anyone wants to read it while they're at my house, I have a nice copy. So the next two books, I had finished all of the books that I wanted to read on my TBR, and I was just looking at my shelves thinking, surely I can squeeze another little book in here. So I did, but it wasn't a little book. It was Six Crimson Cranes, and I am really enjoying this. And I say really enjoying it because I have finished this one, but I jumped straight into Dragon's Promise straight after, and I have got a little bit left. I will finish that today, so I will have read it in the month of August. This follows Sahori, who is a princess, and she has magic, forbidden magic running through her veins, and on the morning of her betrothal ceremony, she loses control, which gets the attention of her stepmother, and her stepmother then banishes her and turns her brothers into cranes because they witness the stepmother's sorcery, because she is a sorcerer in herself. So this leaves Sahori alone, penniless and voiceless, because her stepmother has told her if she utters a single word to anyone, every word she utters, one of her brothers will die. But whilst she is searching for her brothers, she does come across this conspiracy to seize the throne, and she has to work out how she can save the empire, basically. And it's just so good. And like I say, I am on this one. I jumped straight into it, will finish it today, absolutely obsessed. And yeah, so this is my current read and I'm loving it. That is all of the books that I read in August. I really hope that you enjoyed this reading wrap up and I've inspired you to pick some of these books up. Like I say, I have found some new favourites within my shelves and I'm just really excited about it, and I'm really excited to unwrap some books for next month, so stay tuned for my TBR unwrapping. And yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more from me, please subscribe, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye! So the first one is the final strife. Oh my goodness. And he has a mission where he has to infiltrate. And I read two one is Eric and Rose's story. Oh my goodness. And this is my first time reading Dark Rose. It's really great. If you've read the Ruthless Boys, no, Darkmoor Penitentiary, character that, hold on, So hard to talk about these books without doing spoilers, honestly. So then I did read 2 Greek mythology retellings. Oh my goodness. B page. It's too many B's in my wrap up. This follows Isla, who works at this zoo. The zoo is So the next lot of box, and one was one that I unboxed. That don't mean a sense. The next 2 books, sorry, I had a mind blank. Oh my goodness. And then on the morning of her betrothal ceremony, bloody wow. Just for those who like seeing it, this is my jar of all the books that I've read so far this year. It is filling up nicely. And yeah, that's what it looks like now.